Sound whales is everything. It's their hands. These are animals with the biggest brain on Earth and the most powerful sonic apparatus. They spend a lot of their time deep down. They're diving for an hour at a time in darkness. Just like a submarine is echolocating, they ping a signal out and then they wait for that signal to bounce off something and come back as the signal. And from that information, they could get an idea of what's there.
They constantly click, and that click sometimes can be really loud, and you can feel it in your body. It's like going to a DJ and feeling that bass. Once I had an experience with a sperm whale. It clicked, my ears almost like bounced back. It's really an amazing feeling, you know.
You don't develop a huge, complicated brain if you're not using it. Whales have little channels of communicating where they could talk to each other hundreds of kilometers away using sound.
Sperm whales make clicks in sort of rhythmic patterns that we call codas. Any family might have 20 to 25 different coda patterns that they use when they're having conversations with each other. And some of them are unique to different places in the world. In the Eastern Caribbean, they make a lot of what we call a 1 + 1 + 3. That sounds kind of like this. And that's only ever been recorded in the Caribbean. And it's been identical for the last 35 years. These are really different ways of life that are being labeled by these coda patterns. In the same way that human language is kind of a shorthand for where you come from. You can make a lot of missteps when traveling simply by speaking incorrectly or introducing yourself differently. Do you hug? Do you shake hands? Do you bow? And a growing concern has to do with the noise that we're putting into the ocean. Everything we do impacts everything they're doing. The sound is causing high levels of stress in animals like this. No one wants to live at a rock concert. You can imagine trying to have your home inside an arena while some metal band is playing. And that's increasingly what the ocean feels like.
Brine pools are amazing habitat. It's a lake on the bottom of the ocean. And it's this surreal seascape. Chemically, each one of them is unique.
These brines undoubtedly contain bacteria, archaea, and viruses that are unknown to science. We know that they're incredibly rich in undescribed life forms. They have the perfect cocktail, the perfect recipe for life. These sites aren't just salty, they can be violent, characterized by eruptions and incredibly unstable conditions. So to live in them, you have to not only be hardy, but you have to be able to endure constantly changing conditions because not one day is the same. The organisms that live there, they undergo a constant biological warfare with each other to dominate the environment, to survive in the system. The biochemicals that they produce to do that biological warfare are applicable to curing diseases like cancer, Alzheimer's. They produce antibiotics and antivirals that can also be used to improve human health.
And we drop targets as we go, so we know exactly where we sample.
Exploring these habitats is absolutely necessary because the metabolic potential there has the capacity to change the way we think about medicine, to change the way we think about antibiotics, based on our knowledge that we gain from studying these incredible environments in the deep sea.
Imagine if I was sent in to Mona Lisa and I come in with a pair of snippers and I'm like, I'm gonna need to cut this baby up a little bit to see what kind of chemical composition is going on there. Like, you wouldn't do that, right? We don't have to kill these animals. We don't have to kill to understand. If we could do a single cell, that means we don't need to kill 20,000 animals to be able to really understand that one. We could do our work much more non-invasively.
So we are working this year on a new project to deploy tags on orcas We need to learn more about the diet and how they use the habitat. So by deploying those tags, we get the information we need. It is the least invasive method. It is suction cups. So it is not a scratch on the whale afterwards, which is something we really like.
In the deep sea, we use these like robotic claws from the oil and gas industry that gets you the sample, but this is so archaic. So we've been designing something called squishy robot fingers, which are ways to be gentle when we study the deep sea. But I think we could even take this another level. There's some organism, we quickly encase it. It's like a medical checkup. We give it a swab to get its genome. We image it from all directions. We open it up, the animal goes away, and we have more information than we've ever had before. These animals are Mona Lisas. Our perception of them should change. We should be more delicate.
Hydrothermal vents are located on the seabed, often in deep water, but sometimes in shallower water. And they form in areas where new oceanic crust is being formed. You can have 400-degree water here and 2-degree water over here. It's an accelerometer for chemistry, and you can form organic compounds in the absence of biology. Everybody's interested in vents because of the metals, including humans. But the metals are sort of the nuclei for life. When you think about what's required for life, you've got to have an energy source, you've got to have a system that's able to utilize that energy source, and the organisms sort of co-evolve with the rock. And in my mind, that's probably how life originated. There are reservoirs of precious metals in the deep sea, and we do have societal needs for precious metals. It's very short-sighted and dangerous to exploit resources in ecosystems that we don't truly understand how those ecosystems function.
Deep sea mining is when people go out and extract minerals from the seafloor. People do this because a lot of the minerals that we have on land are actually being depleted, like copper and zinc, so we're looking to the ocean to get those minerals.
We want these minerals for solar panels primarily, and we want them for cell phone boards. It's necessary to advance society and get us off fossil fuels. We simply have no idea about the environmental consequences of a lot of these actions that we're taking in the deep sea. We have tended to go for the quick benefit and we'll deal with the consequences later. Well, I think that has caught up with us.
We don't know enough right now to effectively, selectively mine the deep sea without catastrophic consequences.
The science has always lagged behind the industrialization. I would like for once to see the science ahead of the industrialization and have the science define the limits of the industrialization. I study things that are beyond their wildest imaginations, and that I see things that are brand new to science and to people and to humanity every day.
I'm at home in these kinds of environments. It's funny, I'm more comfortable here than I probably am on the outside.
It wasn't just that I was meant to be out on ships. I was supposed to be in the bottom. I was supposed to be in the deep water. I was supposed to be doing those things that nobody had ever done before. It completes who I am. Being a deep sea scientist, it does require sacrifice. I mean, we're away from our families for weeks on end, sometimes months on end. It's a constant struggle because you miss parts of your kid's life. My oldest daughter was about to turn 3 when the oil spill happened in 2010. I was at sea a lot. So between 27 months and 36 months, I was gone probably more than I was there. When I came home after a 5-week stint in the Gulf, she came running up to me in the airport. She had transitioned from a toddler to a little girl, and the little girl was gone, and there was this other person there. And you don't ever get that back. It was a decision. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna miss transformations. I'm gonna miss really important things. Is it worth it? I had talked to her class about the ocean, and one of her friends said something to her, and she responded, you know, my mommy, she's the ocean doctor. The ocean is sick, and she's trying to make it better. She couldn't even say important. She's like, it's really important. But she understands that it's an important job. every time before I leave. I say, my most important job on this planet is being your mother. But this is part of me too.
We're burdened from a time when we thought the ocean was too big to fail.
You can't take anything for granted. Even though the ocean is so big, it is sensitive.
The oceans are the kidneys of the earth. They recycle material and filter it out. Most people don't know that. They're not aware. They see the ocean as a sewer that they can dump anything into, and it's out of sight, out of mind. Nothing is out of sight, out of mind on this planet. Everything is connected.
We are absolutely in this mix of biogeochemistry, and our role so far has been consumptive and destructive. If we are to continue to have a planet that works, we have to heal the harm we've caused.
What's the worst case scenario if we deny that the climate is changing, but actually it is, and we do nothing? Then billions of people's lives will be directly affected just by sea level rise alone, let alone the other effects of climate change. So it's not about who's right, it's about the consequences of being wrong in the decision that we make right now.
Educating everybody, from school children, fishermen, tourists, if we can manage to do that, we have a very good future and we can gain a lot from the ocean.
If we could establish the foundation for interspecies communication, we can make first contact. And that's where I hope the future goes. Because what we really want is curious, conscientious, and a self-correcting population.
You changing can affect all the people around you. To walk instead of drive, to buy a hybrid, to ride a bicycle, to not use single-use plastic. Imagine if everybody did that. The effect would be tremendous.
We do have the power of choice about what we eat, what we wear, how we travel. All the things that we do in an everyday way, times 7 billion, will make all the difference in the world. We must protect the ocean as if our lives depend on it, because they do.
Hatch secure, life support running, and we are ready for the water.
Oh, here she is. Look at the length of that thing. He is wider than the sub. Is long.
No one has dived to 1,000 meters in Antarctica.
My depth, 1,000 meters on bottom, over.
As a scientist, I can tell you we discover something new every time we go out. That's been my drive, to discover things, to uncover mysteries that we can then solve.
We're on a new frontier of ocean exploration that will bring out the explorer in all of us. We're partnering with the OCEANX initiative to build a mind-blowing platform for exploration, a research vessel that's a one-of-a-kind ocean conservation and media platform to explore the world's oceans in ways that were never before possible, to create one big wave for the oceans.
I think it's really exciting. There's still a massive part of this planet we know nothing about.
We need to make people understand what we do in the next 10 years is going to determine what the ocean looks like in 200 years' time.
Audiences glued to Blue Planet 2 have been starkly reminded of the problems of plastics pollution.
50 years ago, Jacques Cousteau and the Calypso managed to capture our imagination. Somehow we lost that moment. We have to get back that personal connection to the sea.
The greatest era of exploration is still ahead of us. Exploring the ocean can help provide a piece to the big puzzle.